Okay, quick summary of question 1, where we were looking at the areas between the x-axis and the function, except that the area happens to be below the x-axis. And so when we wrote this, we did the integral from a to b between the equation y equals 0, subtract our function. And what we discovered is that this gave us the exact same answer as usual. However, adding this 0 take away in it basically counteracted that negative we would end up with. So it was the equivalent of putting a negative out the front of our answer. So if we didn't do all this, our answer for this area might have equaled something like -4/3, but by doing this we end up with just 4/3. So we're going to use this idea in questions 9 and 10. Imagine we're looking at a function like this. So the difference from our previous questions is that we have areas that are above the x-axis, and we also have areas that are below, all in the one question. So to begin this, let's label them. So this can be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So looking at number 1, this would be the integral from -5 to -2 of the function. And then usually we would add on the next area. What we know about this second area is if we don't do anything different, it's going to end up being a negative answer. And that would actually subtract from our area. But what we want is the total area, as if it was just a normal shape like the area of a square. You wouldn't want a negative area of a square. So whenever you see a negative area below the x-axis, we are going to subtract it to counteract that. So we're going between -2 and 0. So this by itself will actually get a negative answer, say just make it up, -6/5. However, by putting this negative in front of it, it will cancel out. Our next area, number 3, is a normal positive area, so we'll just add that on. It goes between 0 and 4. And our last area is negative again, so we would subtract it. Having a look at this with an actual equation now, in an example from the textbook, number 6. So they've given you an equation. The first step is to factorize and find the places where it crosses over the x-axis. And then they've broken this up into, so there's 2 areas between -3 and 0. And then because the second area is negative, they have subtracted it to counteract that. And so what ends up happening is you get these 2 negatives in here, which end up adding. So the final answer is 11 5/6. And just to know that on your calculators, this is probably going to come up as 71/6. And how you convert between these two, if you can't quite remember, is 11 times 6 is 66, plus 5 is 71. So instead of saying there's 11 holes and 5/6 left over, you can say you've got 71/6. And to go back the other way, you think how many times does 6 fit into 71? Fits 11 whole times, which makes 66. And then there's 5 little bits left over. I don't mind if you leave them in either format. The reason I'm telling you this is because I'm about to show you how to do this on a calculator. So let's make that. Sorry, just had some technical issues. Okay, so let's say we're doing this on our calculator like normal. So option math. What one do I usually go into? Calc. Okay, so I'm just going to type this equation in that we've been given. And I have put this in the calculator as going all the way from -3 to 1. So I'm including both areas at once. The calculator can work that out. However, when I press equals, you notice I get 32/3. And so that is not the same as the answer we should be getting. And the problem is that the calculator has not taken into account the fact that one of the areas is negative. And so it's worked out both areas, but it's subtracted the second area. So what we need to do, and unfortunately if you forget to do it you have to retype it, is to go back into option and go across to numerical. Choose abs, which is for absolute. So get these modulus. And what absolute means is it takes the absolute value of something, so it doesn't worry about the negative. So any answer that would be negative, it just puts it as a positive. And so retyping the equation, try this again, and now we get the correct answer. So technically you could use the absolute 2 lines on the outside of on any question. It won't matter, but it will help in case that one of the areas was negative and there were multiple areas. Cool, that's the end of the video. Good luck with questions 9 and 10.